Going on, everybody? This is Bobby G back again with another Saturday Shpiel. And this week I want to talk about being watchful and being aware of what's going on in our world. And I'm not just talking about on the news, I'm not just talking about on the internet, I'm talking about what's going on in our own backyards, in our own neighborhoods. Whether you live on the west side of Chicago, where I used to live, or whether you live in a small town, or whether you live in a small city, which is where I'm currently at now. And it comes out of Ezekiel chapters 3 and 33, where it talks about him being a watchman on the wall, and also from Matthew 24, where Jesus talking about his second coming, that no one knows the time of the hour, but he says to keep watch. And he talks about this faithful servant. Who is the faithful servant who watch over his Lord's, watch for his Lord's return? And in the case of Matthew 24, it talks about how if the servant of the Lord should be caught staying awake and being watchful either at the second or the third watch, this is a very late watch in ancient Eastern times, he says, I tell you that the Lord of the house or the master will set him over all his things and set him over all his house. But if the servant who is disobedient goes, my master's coming, he ain't gonna be back for a long, long time. And he goes and starts being disrespectful and just tearing apart his fellow servants, when the master comes back, he's going to look at it and be like, okay, that's how you want to be? Okay. And that particular disobedient servant is going to be thrown out with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, it says. Contrast that with Ezekiel chapters 3 and 33, where God tells Ezekiel, he says, hey, I've set you as a watchman on the wall with the shofar, right, which is to signal people for something. And he says, I set you as a watchman on the wall. And if I give you a word and you say something and you sound the shofar, just like the watchman on the wall, and you let people know what's coming and they choose not to listen, that's on them. Because you warned the people what was coming, and they chose not to listen, so that's on them. But you have delivered yourself. However, if you see what's coming, meaning if I give you a word, and you don't say anything that was coming, that person's still going to die, but it's not going to be on them. It's going to be on you. Because you knew what was up, you knew what time it was, and you still didn't do what was right. So that person's still going to die for what they chose not to heed the warning. They're going to die for not choosing my heed of a word, but it's not going to be on them in that case. Because you didn't choose to give the warning when I told you to give the warning, that's on you. Because you saw the danger and didn't blow the shofar, you didn't sound the warning, that's on you. I bring this up because I'm wondering, how many of us, because I've been guilty in the past of this myself, mind you, so I'm preaching to myself to a degree. How many of us see what's going on, not just on the internet, not just on the news, but right what's going on right around us in our own neighborhoods? How many people see what's going on? How many of us see what is happening in our own cities? Right where we live. How many people are really taking care to look around, right around us, right, looking at what's right in front of our eyes, and letting our neighbors and our friends know, hey, oh, by the way, this is going on. This is an issue over here in our neighborhood. This is an issue over here and here. You should probably look into this and maybe do something about it. How many of us are willing to go to our neighboring congregations, whether they're of the same denomination of ours or not? How many of us are willing to go to a different denomination that are maybe Lutherans and are going over to Catholics, or Episcopals and going to Baptist, or are Pentecostals and going to Methodists and saying, hey, oh, by the way, you should look into this because... And I'm not talking about in a mean way. I'm not talking about in a spiteful way. I'm just saying, if we care about each other, if we are the people of God and we're supposed to love each other as the Lord calls us to do, for he says, the world will know you by the love you have for one another. Do we love each other enough that we're giving each other a heads up of what's going on in this world? Do we love each other enough that we're willing to tell people, hey, you should be concerned about this, and the reason you should be concerned about this is because X. Now, because I talk a lot about local issues, does that mean I think that we shouldn't be concerned about national or international issues? Of course not. Because national and international issues in some way, shape, or form are going to affect us locally where we live. But Bizzle put it this way, who's one of my favorite artists. He said, study a lie that can make new lies up. Study the truth and you'll know when a lie comes. That was off his album, and I believe, or no, it was off of his song Ether. And it was off of a mixtape that he made. Also, to give another analogy, is when it comes to real money versus counterfeit money. Only people who have been trained in the world of handling real money, whether it's the Federal Reserve or bankers or what have you, they can tell the difference between a real dollar and one that's counterfeit, between a real Benjamin and one that's fake. Why? Because they've been trained to handle the real thing. I'm not telling you what is real or isn't fake. What I'm saying, especially to believers who are watching this, look to Scripture. Look to God in prayer. If you have commentaries, use those along with it. I personally use the IVP Bible Background Commentary for the Old and the New Testament, plus I have an ESV Archaeology Study Bible that gives me context to what I'm reading. Why am I asking these things? I'm asking you to look at these things, to be watchful, to use the Scriptures as a lens through which to see the world and ask, what is going on here? Am I seeing things that are godly, or am I seeing something else? Am I seeing something that is fruitful and that is good that is going on in the church and in the world and in my local community even? Or is there something else going on here? I'm saying what Scripture says, which is to test the spirits to see whether they are of God or not, is what I'm saying. At least in regards to spiritual matters. But I'm also asking you to keep an eye on what's going on in the world, and to be letting your brothers and sisters in the faith know what you see, whether you think it's good, whether you think it's bad, whether you're not sure, but that you're looking into it, so that we can be awake, aware, and so we are able to see how we can move for the kingdom in our lives and see what's going on. That's my Saturday spiel for this week. Be watchful, be patient, and also see the will of the Lord first. And let's take care of each other so that we can get through the tough times that we're in. Peace.